Welcome to the Black Sheep podcast. Today we have um, a writer, comedian extraordinaire, Robert Dean. He's an interesting cat. Robert, do you want to introduce yourself as well?
Howdy, folks. The great land of the internet. I am
It's
Robert Dean, journalist, writer, raconteur, enlightened dumbass.
that's an interesting thought to start with. Is the internet a land, or is it like an
I'd,
astral plane of some sort?
I'd
Maybe like a lane
say
of
more of
fun.
a pornographic fucking hellscape.
Well, 90% of it is, yeah,
Uh,
yeah. I've
I've
never been to that part of the internet though, so I don't know. I
That's
don't
right.
know
Yeah,
what I'm
you were
talking
you
about.
were never an evangelical teen at any point in your life, so you
Never
definitely have
once.
never been. Covenant eyes never flagged you for anything.
No, Triple X Church did once or twice, but it's because I was looking up National Geographic stuff. So Robert,
That's right. You just wanted to
um,
look up those big naturals, around
yeah,
the
yeah,
fuck yeah,
globe.
well,
dude.
you know how it
Everyone's
goes.
guilt. Everyone's guilty of looking at some National Geographic titties.
Yeah, I gotta go. I gotta know what's going on in Angola.
Fuck yeah, you do. I want to know what's going on in Angola now, and I've got people that are sharing butt plugs on a screen away.
Oh, that sounds like a blast. So as I think
Literally and
everyone can,
figuratively.
well, yeah, you're on the right track there. As I think everyone can tell at this point, we're gonna have a lot of fun this episode. Um, so Robert, we brought you on. You're a hardcore aficionado. You're a fan. You love a lot of the same music we love. You've written some cool stuff. Do you want to tell us why we brought you on here?
Yeah, I mean, I grew up in hardcore. My first hardcore show was in like '96 on I'm trying to think when it was. I think it was Earth Crisis on Gomorrah Season Ends at the Fireside Bowl in Chicago.
Shit.
And yeah, I mean, I've been into it since. We got into it all like right around Victory Style 2 is when like Progression Through Unlearning, Gomorrah Season Ends, and This Defiance, like those three records we were all fucking obsessed with. And
Mm.
then, we were already listening to punk and metal and then heard that. And then, that was in '96 when I was 15. So at 42, I just saw Chamber and Creeping Death and Despised Icon the other night. And then I saw Botch last week. And like, I've been just like
Jesus.
dealing with a shitty life lately. And I just got fucking hammered and beat the piss out of people. I fucking pit bossed like a motherfucker in there.
You are a big guy, so like I would not want to get hit too hard by you in the pit.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'm 6'4". So like, it's
Jesus,
just,
dude.
it is what it is, man. And like, I'm the never, rarely am I the smallest person in the room.
What happens when the immovable object meets the unstoppable force in the pit with you? Which one are you
Yeah,
first? Are you the immovable object or are you the unstoppable force?
I'm the unstoppable force. I like in the pit, dude. I just like act goofy. Like I love breakdowns and I love the rhythm of the music so much that like when you just hear those chug parts, you just start fucking rooster necking it, and I just something like the demon gets in me, and I
Got to
just
get
like love
rubbernecking.
watching people. I love watching kids go fucking wild and jumping on top of each other and shit. I don't know. It's just something that like I get excited about it. I had to be a dad on a Saturday night at the Chamber show because I would have fucking straight up been in the middle of that. Like I love swinging on metal dorks, so I don't care. It's just to me, it's just fun. I don't know. There's just something about hardcore that still just gets me totally just fucking just ready to go.
All right, so here's a question right away. Who has the best hardcore fans in your opinion from your experience?
In terms of a band or a city,
In terms of a crowd. So like when the crowd just goes ape, which uh which
mm,
which band is it that you're like, holy shit, I did not know they were gonna bring it like that, and I didn't know the crowd is gonna lose it like that.
I think that Drain band is really killing it right now with like all the
Yeah.
wild fun stuff with like I don't know like I'm definitely a keep hardcore negative kind of guy. Like I love like full on violence. But I mean, I think it's fun, like with the blow up shit and like beach balls and all that. Like make it a party. I think that's real fun. I was there in California for the California takeover, the first time they redid it in LA, and that was like right before pandemic shut down. And Strife fucking, they were, all the old heads were just murdering each other. That was fun. It was really weird because I was with one of my friends and was a bartender at the Tea Garden. No, she's can't remember the name of the Monty Bar. And like me and her just getting fucking blasted. And like there's just a bunch of nerds in straight edge baseball jackets. I was like, what the fuck is going on here?
Start dosing their waters with caffeine and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, like all the bartenders are just like, this is real fun, and it's like a bunch of just straight edge dudes, and like meanwhile we're bar hopping like to every bar because she works next door. So like we stepped out of there just absolutely mangled at a hardcore show.
That is the nice thing about when straight edge bands play at clubs that serve alcohol is like there's only going to be like 2 people there that are actually going to drink, so you like never actually have to wait in line to get
That's
drinks,
true.
which is nice.
Yeah, that's really not a thing in Austin. This is a really hard partying town. Like even if Earth Crisis comes in play here, there's still going to be people with tall boys like every third person.
Well, I think there's only like 15 straight edge people left in the world anyway. So
That's true.
Yeah, I mean, straight edge is. I was straight edge in high school, but
I was going to ask
I don't
about that. Yeah. What caused you to go to the dark side, or go
know.
dull edge, as I like to call it?
So I'm from the working class, like south side of Chicago, and I grew up like my parents are like cool rock and roll parents. Like I didn't have to rebel.
You're
Like my
Jim
parents
Croce,
were.
man.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I got that. I love that shit, dude. Fucking mess around with Jim is one of my favorite songs of all time.
Yeah. Hell yeah, dude.
Um,
That goes hard.
yeah, fuck yeah, it does, especially when it's just the drums.
Someone needs to turn that into a hardcore song. That was made to be a hardcore song.
Yeah, I mean, it'd have to be the right kind of band to do it because you don't want
Oh,
it to
for
be
sure.
like that like label that drifts into that corny shit that they were doing in the early 2000s with like hardcore goes rap and all that stuff, and you're like, ugh,
Well,
just fucking
no
stop.
one's gonna come out with hardcore goes folk. I mean, come on now.
I
A
mean, it's
one-off is
funny, dude.
good.
Bro, people are wearing fucking dresses and shit at shows now. I don't even understand anything anymore. So if you said hardcore goes folk, I'd be like, word, you know,
Actually,
whatever.
I think I'd be here for it. I think I'd be down. I'd like to hear
Yeah.
some I would like to hear some heavy Fleet Foxes or some shit. Why not, right?
Yeah, but the straight edge thing was like my parents like raised my dad rides Harleys and shit, and like he's super cool, and like we grew up like around super like gnarly people. Like my mom's favorite band is Black Sabbath, and like blues, rock and roll, and country is what we were raised on. So like I never had to like rebel. So like my parents, the neighborhood I'm from is like super working class. Like you're either a criminal, a cop, or a bricklayer. Those are like your three, you know, straight up choices.
That sounds like a folk song if I ever heard one.
Yeah, I mean, it's south side of Chicago, so it is what it is. Um, but we just were never sheltered away from like their friends' bad choices. And my mom had me when she was 18, about to turn 19. So like I kind of grew up with them. Like I'm 42 and my mom is 61, you know? And
Yeah.
so yeah, and like my dad's 65. And so like I kind of grew up with them and they never like hid when friends were dying of overdoses and shit, and like people were partying out, and like a guy died of cirrhosis of the liver. My dad's best friend was killed in a motorcycle accident. So like we were never shied away from that. It was like this is what happens when you make poor choices, even
Mm.
though they were partying themselves. And right around that like weird finding out that like I was into punk rock and liking hardcore and stuff like that, and like I it was for the first time in my life that I like somebody could be like, oh, you're intellectual, and it could be cool despite my like language and jokes and shit. I actually do have a job. And it was the first time that like because I was always the smartest kid in my class, but like nobody in south side of Chicago, like when I told people I wanted to be a writer, they were like, what, like how do you even do that? Like it was just so out of the purview of anything. And so straight edge made a sense to me because I was still trying to figure out like my place in the world, and then figuring out like, oh hey, like I can still be smart and I can still do all this, and this made sense. And by the time I got around 20, and my friends started just 21, 21, we all like went in like a 2-year wave. of like all of us, and it's just like you're in the bar and shit and you're hanging out and everybody's having fun and you're like the one dickhead with his arms crossed. And then finally it was just like we were at a house party and somebody was like, they were like, we will pay you, like they like kiddied up like $300, and $300 to a 20-year-old, you're like, that's a
It's a
lot of
lot.
fucking money. And that's $300 to a 42-year-old is a lot, and to a 20-year-old in like, this is 2001.
It's a week of
And
work.
yeah, dude. And so I was like, fuck that. I'm just like, I'm get past the Millers, dog. And you know, I
You
wrote
sold
this
out your
that.
straight edge. You sold out your straight edge for a Miller Lite, huh?
Yep. About 10 of them that night.
There's worse ways to go, I suppose, right?
Yeah,
And you never looked back.
no,
No.
no, I've made plenty of poor choices since then. I pretty much made a career of it.
Well, that's where I'd like to talk about, existential thirst trap. What inspired you to want to write existential thirst trap?
I've been writing, I did some fiction. I got 2 fiction books published, and I actually have my first piece of fiction coming out next year for my first thing in like 8 years that I'd done. And like I was still doing journalism pieces, but I never felt like this is the most whack Gen Z shit I can say. But like for the first time I felt seen of like who I actually am when I would do like essays in journalism where they kind of Venn diagram into one another. And
Yeah.
so like I found who I wanted to be, because like I was writing these stories, but like I was still way more influenced by like Hunter Thompson and Anthony Bourdain and like Bukowski and the Beats. Like, those were
Oh, great.
always my
Yeah.
influences. And so it was like I just started, because everyone would be like, "You have such wild fucking stories, and you're like a wild person." And I was just like, I have points of view, and marrying the two together just made more sense to me. And so I started writing essays. Then I started having success with essays and first person articles and things like that. And so then it just kind of came like the final form, or at least the realized form of like who I was as a writer. And so the book was something I was tinkering with before COVID, and then during COVID it got real, and then I finally did it, and then it got put out in May.
Wow. That's a pretty quick process, honestly.
Yeah, I mean it more or less was one of those things. Is I went to a couple of publishers and they were like, "Well, what is?" And I mean, I heard it. I've said it in multiple interviews. I was told straight up like I had a TV production deal before COVID hit, and like I was doing shit in LA to like hopefully have a fucking TV show. I'm a cartoon character, so people, find it like interesting to whatever I do. And um I got really tired of hearing why does the world need stories from another straight white man? And so I was like, that sucks, dude. Like, it's not that I didn't spend 20 years to get really good at doing this. And so I just was like, fuck it. And I went to Big Laugh, the comedy production company I work with, when we did a whole bunch of different kinds of content. We did videos and podcasts and all kinds of shit. And I was like, what if we just put this out and DIY it? And so then we agreed to do that, because it's just like this virtual signaling shit. Like, I believe everybody has their place. I believe every story is worth being told, but just like mine isn't any less valuable, even though the work is good. And so I just was like, fuck it. I'm not going to play your game and, pretend I'm somebody I'm not, or appeal to an audience that will never care about me.
Sure.
Mhm.
Yeah, that makes sense to me.
So the book is obviously filled with like wild stories throughout kind of your life. There must have been like parts of that story that like were cut out or didn't quite make the cut. Was there anything that like, if you just had the time, or if you like, I'm sure you had to like meet some sort of kind of word count or whatever. But was there any stories that you were like, God, I really wish I could have like kept that in, but just couldn't for whatever reason?
No, I mean, that book is stands and I'm super proud of it, but I'm writing the follow up right now, which is
Yeah.
called Sad Clown. And it's gonna have another story. Like, I have one about me being in the car with a Russian mafia dude. That shit was fucking wild.
Oh, so you're
And
Bert Kreischer.
well, yeah, not the machine. Like, here's the short version of it. This is going to be in the book. I've told this story before. So I was still living in New Orleans at the time, and I had come up to Chicago for holiday or something. I don't remember why I was in town, but one of my best friends was tattooing across the street at this bar. He was tattooing at this place called Tattoo Tattoo. No, it was Tattoo Candy. That was the name of it. And across the street was this place called the Teddy Bear Lounge. And it's typical Chicago dive. You know, it's great. I roll in there with my other best friend Brian, and the bartender is a fucking fox, and like she is just like totally my type. And so we just start chatting. She's like an immigrant because Chicago is like a huge Eastern European, Polish, Ukrainian uh, deal. So we rolled over there, and like I started chatting up this chick, and like we're getting on like a house fire. Like it was cool. And so we're sitting in there shooting pool, playing punk rock songs on the jukebox and everything. And then she was like, I was like, what are you doing after work? Let's hang out. And so she gave me her number. It was like, I'll be at this bar after work. You should come up there. And I was like, okay. She gives me the thing. So I cut out, and we're closed because Chicago's a 4 a.m. town. There's basically like 45 minutes where you can't drink in Chicago. And we hop in a cab because this is pre-Uber days. We hop in a cab, and like we get up all the way up on the northwest side of the city. It was like 20 something minutes from where we were. And we get in there, and me and Brian walk in, and the record scratches, dude. It is like dudes in tracksuits and gold and shit. And she sees me, and she's like, what are you doing here? And I go, you said to come and hang out. I'm fucking here to hang out. What's up? And, I started like ready to start ordering shots. And the dude was like, no, you do not hang out here. And I was like, what the fuck, dude? I look at Brian. I was like, this is wild. And so, like, they didn't even serve us. And she's like, I thought you'd know to not come here by the name of the bar. And I'm like, I haven't lived here in years. I don't exactly hang out in like Russian mafia dens either. And so,
all you would have needed to do is squat down and then just start smoking a cigarette, and everyone would have been like, wait, is he Bulgarian?
dude, I'm on it.
And you would have been golden, man.
Yeah, I mean, like being from Canaryville just taught me like that's the neighborhood I'm from on the south side is like fuck you. I don't like it's just we're 100% Irish fucking working class neighborhood. Like you think you dudes are gonna scare me? If you murder me, there's gonna be like 30 bikers wanting to fight you with chains and shit.
Oh,
So
shit. Yeah.
like so we get in there, and the fucking guy just starts yelling at this chick in like whatever Russian, Polish, whatever. And he's like yelling at her, we leaving now. She's like, we should leave. And I was like, where are we going? He's like, he's taking us home. And I was like, oh. And so I look at Brian, I was like, because we were like way far from his house, and I was staying at his house. And so we get in the car, and like she's in shotgun, he's in fucking we're in the back seat, and like the whole time, mind you, I'm hammered. And so I think this is hilarious. And I'm like, and he like leans over, and he like goes in the glove compartment. I'm like, Yuri, please don't grab gun and kill us. We just were trying to hang out. And he's like getting visibly more fucking mad. And he just like suddenly screaming at her in Polish. And me and Brian, I was looking at Brian, I was like, dude, this is fucked up, man. Because this guy like legit drove 100 miles an hour on the streets of Chicago with no regard to stoplights at all.
Oh my
Like
God.
just ripping down like city streets with traffic, whatever. And this dude just did not even stutter. And I look at Brian, I was like, yo, dude, this is starting to get like fucking scary. And he goes, dude, I am so scared right now. And so I was like, check it out. When we get in, because he lives in a neighborhood called Logan Square, I was like, when we get by your place, there's a taco joint called Lazo's that's 24/7. I was like, when he gets up, I was like, these doors don't have child locks on them. So if he's gonna execute us, we can run. Like we were talking like that.
Oh,
And
shit.
so we were like, right here, we're jumping out of this fucking car as soon as he stops by the house. Cause there's a stop sign. Cause if you did like go around the corner to Brian's place, taco shop was right there. And as soon as the car stopped, we were like, later. And we just jumped out and we ran into Lazo's and hid in the bathroom for like 45 minutes. We literally, the two of us in the
Oh my
fucking stall,
God.
just hiding out. And they never came back. And so like later on in the night, I text her. I'm like, dude, what the fuck was that? She goes, yeah, I'm married. I didn't think you were actually going to come, and you got me in
Oh
trouble.
my
And I was
God.
like, what do you mean you're married? She goes, yeah, I don't want to be married to him, but it is what it is. I was like, damn, this is some immigrant bride shit.
Oh
Wow.
my
So,
God.
so yeah,
Okay,
that's going
the
in the
thing
next
that
book.
everybody wants to know though, what does the Russian mafia listen to when they're in the car?
from what I remember, I think it was the dance music stuff. From what I remember, I don't even know if he
the
had
Euro
music on.
dance.
Yeah, if he had it on, that was definitely what was playing in the bar when we walked in there. That
What
was for sure on in there.
what's that one Eastern European band? Oh, it's gonna kill me. The guy like dresses like a fucking alien and shit and goes. You know
Oh
what I'm
yeah,
talking
I don't
about?
know, but I know the video for sure.
Yeah, I wonder if that's what they're listening to.
No, I'm more of a Molchat Doma kind of guy.
I don't know what that means. I've never heard of
That's
that.
if it's they had a song that was really big on like the internet. It's like it sounds like just super gnarly Joy Division kind of stuff. And
Oh,
so there was always like these videos of these chicks like dancing and their feet were look like they were floating. But if you look up Molchat Doma and hear the first song, you're gonna go, "Oh, I can't tell you what the first song is because the shit's in Russian."
yeah. Okay. I'll check it out. I'm sure I do know it if
You definitely know it.
okay. Sick. I'm down for that.
One of the things about growing up in South Dakota is I feel like I really have no even like even like understanding or perspective around what the mafia is even like. But obviously, like if you go to the East Coast, especially like New York and New Jersey, you've got like the Italian mob and mafia over there, and then obviously when you're in Chicago, you've got that like you've got a number of different like ethnicities, like the Russian mafia, and like there's even a little bit of Italian mafia. I just like have no comprehension around what that even would be like to like know that there are these groups of people that are essentially running these towns and like even infiltrating like the authorities. It's just like hard to believe that that even exists, but part of me is like so even though I
Sheltered.
have like no comprehension around it, I like have this like sense of like nostalgia around it where I'm like I wish I could have like been around New York in like the 70s with like Rocky Balboa and working class kind of New York or Chicago and like be the kind of person that was like sort of like adjacent to the mob or whatever. Like but I have no like sense of what that even would mean or anything. But I don't know, like whenever I watch like some mob or mafia stories or movies, I'm just like this looks like this would have been like kind of fun to have like at least grown up adjacent to.
Oh, if I didn't become a writer, I mean, there's a very high chance I could have. I've got what it takes to be a criminal.
To be in the IRA.
Yeah, I mean, my great grandfather was in the IRA.
Yeah, I mean, I got to imagine that a lot of Irish immigrants have family members that were in the IRA.
Yeah, I mean, my great grandfather on my mother's side was in the IRA, and then my great grandfather on my father's side was a bootlegger for Capone. He died at 38 in a sanitarium.
Shit.
See, this is what I'm saying. I'm like, you totally have like connections, and I'm like, part of me is like, I don't want to be like one of the people in it, but I'm like, but to at least like kind of like you, where it's like I got connections to it. I don't know why, but I'm like, I want that so bad
No, I
for
mean, it's
myself.
It's a fascinating thing. I just did a piece. Like, there's a certain romance to walking the line of shit that you're not supposed to. Like, it's like you feel like you're allowed in the room, and you're like, how the fuck did I get in this room? And it's like one of those things is like,
That's what Mason said when
I,
he was talking to Reliant K at Furnace
Yeah,
Fest.
that's right.
I don't even, I don't know. I know the name Reliant K, but I don't know anything
Oh,
about them.
They're like a pop
oh,
punk kind of
Oh,
band.
okay. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
what I thought. Okay, that makes sense.
early and mid 2000s. Well,
yeah.
Yeah, I
that's their
remember the
heyday.
name for sure. I mean, I think I probably came across and listened to one song and was like, not for me, and kept moving because I
Yeah,
like
for sure.
pop punk.
Yeah,
So it just probably just wasn't for me.
yeah.
What what did you think about when the Queen died as a very Irish person?
Well, I don't fucking care. Fuck the monarchy.
That's what I wanted to hear.
I mean, that shit's weird.
Roll,
The
Lizzie,
amount of like
roll.
Irish people that absolutely despise the British monarchy and specifically the Queen. I just oh my god, when she died, Irish Twitter that day was just rolling.
Yeah, I don't really. I don't know. It's just one of those things. Is their that entire family is like indicative of some of the world like atrocities of the world. Like, why would we be stoked about like to follow these like inbred fucking weird people? Like, I got a cousin that's like so psyched and she like goes to like when some like dumb British shit is happening, she'll go and like want to be there, and I'm like, why? Why would you want to stand out in like the crowd to watch these people that do not give a? They think you're scum.
Yeah.
Like you're a
See,
peasant to them.
That shit happens to me too. As a history teacher, I'll have like students or even like family members that'll be like, "Oh my, so who is the brother of King Charles?" I'm like, I don't give a shit, honestly.
Right?
Like I don't know and I don't care. Like it does not matter to me whatsoever because these people are just so unimportant to me. But some people they take it like a religion.
Oh, yeah, it's weird.
It's super
I'm
weird.
I'm very like un-American, sort of even anti-America at times, but nothing makes me feel more American than when there's like British shit going on, like when the Queen died. I'm like full on like wanting to throw tea out into the sea. Like I am just like ready to go to defend America in those days.
Get yourself a T-shirt that says "Joe Hamburger, motherfucker."
Well, there's a thought experiment. What if you could place the founding fathers into the heavy music world of
Oh,
today? What do you think they would listen to? What do you think would really like get their their jive going?
I don't know. I mean, you gotta think from a totally different perspective in the sense that like, could you imagine digging one of these guys up and then just being
Yeah.
like, "Hey, check it out. This is Marduk," and like they would just shit their pants. Like, just if you like drop them in like an immolation show, just like some gnarly death metal shit or like black
To be like,
metal, and like they would literally probably have a heart attack thinking, say, like they believe in such weird shit anyway, and then like
yeah,
you got guys like in spikes and shit. Man, I'd see that's more interesting to me is watching like some old guys just die again from fear.
totally, totally.
well, that and the electricity would just be like, wait, what? Like what?
Yeah,
Like that would probably like blow their mind enough where they might just die from that
Yeah,
alone
no, no,
too.
like they've experienced enough to like know what they're doing. They know where they're at. But like, what music would they listen to if it was like heavy music? I bet it'd be like some like Dream Theater or some shit.
I'd take Ben Franklin based on like that he's quotes on like sex and beer and shit like that. Seems like a Pantera kind of guy.
Oh, definitely, definitely, because he he loved throwing down with the French too. Um,
Yeah,
he was the cowboy from hell over in France when he was the emissary. It makes sense.
yeah, he was up to and he was like with like brothels and harems and shit. That's some
Oh
Vinnie Paul
man,
Dimebag stuff
big
right
time,
there,
big
man.
time.
So
That was the
and
only
that
time that they ever really did any real business, you know. Which I got to imagine Dimebag probably did the same thing. So
yeah, I would definitely say that that's very true.
Let's talk more about existential thirst trap. Yeah, again, like a lot of it is, it's all like very kind of memoirish for you. So you're talking a lot about all these different stories throughout your life. Uh, when you were writing the book, was there anything that kind of came up where you're like, wow, that like I feel like I'm learning something about myself here, or like, oh, I didn't know like I still like was holding on to this feeling about that story or surrounding that story. Was there anything that kind of came up where you're like, wow, that's a I need to unpack that a little bit more for myself, or I like this is something I'm learning about myself as I'm writing some of these stories. But was there anything kind of around that came up while you were writing the book?
Mm, probably the divorce stuff was like that. You know, talking about my divorce. Me and my ex are super cool. We were together for 10 years. We have two boys together, and she's super cool. And you know, I appreciate that we're like friends now. We're like business partners, but we're her boyfriend's fucking awesome. We went to a show together a couple of weeks ago. You know, he's like the best guy I could have asked for her to be with. And so, unpacking a lot about because when you get divorced, I don't know if either of you guys have ever been married or divorced or whatever. Um, when you kind of pledge your life to somebody, and even that when it stops working, it's kind of like a total like just drill to your brain and turns everything into cereal. Like you're not the person that like I think everybody who gets divorced should be able to have like a year where you're just like didn't count whatever poor choices and dumb shit you said, because I said a lot of dumb things to people. And
Did,
like
did you
it's
did you feel like it was like an identity thing? Is that what you're trying to get at? Like you had no idea like who
no,
you are because you were attached to this person and they were so much a
no,
part of your life, or what do you mean?
I don't think it's I mean maybe it's an identity thing. It's like you're like when you're married, like, yeah, people flirt with you and all that other shit. And it's like this sly, like, hey, what's up, Rebecca? Looking great today or whatever. I mean, I get away with saying that shit. Most people are not. Don't do that. It's fucking 2023. Everyone gets offended about everything. But I get away with murder for the shit that I say. But, like when you like kind of lose the identity of being married, you're like, oh shit, I can actually try to like hit on Rebecca. And you have to like remember to like how to do that. And then like 10 years later from when you were in the dating pool, it's a totally different ecosystem of how people communicate, let alone like some carnal desire, And so you got to be cognizant of that. And you got to be like, it's just not like it was when I was coming up, it's just a totally different animal. Like I've been divorced 5 years now and I've had two girlfriends and neither of them worked out. And it's like, you know, it's just a weird loss of sense of the self. And you kind of have to really take stock of like, okay, I'm like a different person than when I came into this thing. And like, now I'm like a different person, but like I have two little dudes that I have to be
Yeah.
responsible for. And then like the person that I'm no longer with is like my business partner now. And we have to get along and like make choices together that in it's been a positive way, benefit. And so it's a lot, man. But that was probably the hardest one to write because it was just so even in the back of the book it says, it says thank you to, Sarah, and it says even though we're not together anymore, I'm glad we could still be friends or something like that. And I meant it.
Yeah. Is there go ahead, Mason.
The dating piece to that, when you're coming out of divorce, I find it would be really interesting because like you're right that just dating in general changes like over the years, and that reminds me of I've been watching this new show called The Golden Bachelor, which is like this like spin-off series for The Bachelor. But it's this guy who's like 70 years old and his like wife recently died and now is like wanting to get back into like the dating game. And like half of these like, 70, 60-year-old people, they're all like starting to date each other now. Half of it is like just them learning how to date again.
Yeah.
How do I set up Tinder?
Yeah, they're just like they don't even know how to like navigate dating again after probably like decades of not dating. So I like that seems to be a really interesting piece of dating is just knowing how to date. And that probably feels way more natural when you're 18 versus when you're like 40 and recently divorced.
Yeah, dude, I thought every pretty girl that like, and I mean this like is just, I thought every pretty girl that I knew on Instagram, I could slide into their DMs and it was cool. Like I didn't realize there was like I didn't realize there was like a thing to this. No, I just didn't know.
Yeah.
Right.
And then
Why would you?
You're like, hey, what's going on? They're like, nothing. And I'm like, cool. And you gotta like you have to learn that whole lingo and code, and it's still like I still just kind of deal with stuff. You're just like, ugh, this sucks, man. The ecosystem for all of this is just really, really toxic and bad. Like I don't think the internet is good for people in the sense that these apps in the back of people's heads, they like know that there is an endless choice out there that they can just like scrap whatever they're doing. I'm like, well, I'll just hop on an app and I'll meet somebody new. It's like this never ending uh wheel of fortune wheel, and I think psychologically that's really bad for people.
Yeah, it's like a perpetual grass is always greener scenario, right? Like
Definitely.
sometime the grass has to be greenest. But if you think that it's not green enough, you'll just miss out on like a great opportunity. And both people have to agree that the grass is the greenest it's going to get with one another. Otherwise, it just isn't going to work. And one of the two is going to end up blowing the whole thing up.
Yeah, I've been there.
That's some difficult stuff to deal with. So I haven't I've been with the same person for
A very long time.
13 years. And yeah, that was I can't imagine trying to get back into like dating or anything like that.
Oh, it's terrible. It's terrible.
Yeah, well, and I think like from my perspective, everyone's like, "Oh, look how easy it is. It's easy to date, but is it easy to like actually find somebody you love?" That's more of the question, I think.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of snares to it. I mean, like they call it the loneliness epidemic because it's real. Like I think truly that people don't know how to communicate the ways that they used to. They don't know how to socialize in the way, like, without this screen in front of them. It's like you can send messages and DMs and things like that. And people have like reached this like comfort zone with it, and then that endless choices and that all that, and then lifestyles and things is just, it's a lot. And I think the current way that it's set up is just, I don't really know if it's bound for success. It's more just bound for acceptability, because we're kind of lost in, hey, I can go out on some dates, see what's going on, but then like you don't, because you're basing everything on these like profiles of people that you just kind of get a flash, like a snapshot of, and you're like, well, she's cute, and then you're like, oh, but she wants kids, and like those are the good things to get out of the way, because I don't want any more kids.
Right.
But like you have to like go down the list of like, this works for me, this doesn't work. Whereas in before, you might be able to like have a conversation and be like, well, like, can we communicate different needs, and maybe we'll, stuff that we thought were hard knows, but because I really like you, maybe we can figure this out. But immediately you're like, nope, doesn't check all the boxes, moving on.
Red flag. Bye. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
tough. That's tough. I also think it's kind of interesting what you were talking about with like the screens and everything, and how we only really feel comfortable when we're behind the screen. Even doing this podcast, I talk to people all the time, but like I don't generally talk to what I would consider, people who've been monumental in my life, except for on here. On here, I have zero nerves when I talk to him. Talked to Spencer Chamberlain, what was that, 2 weeks ago, Mason?
Mhm.
And yeah, didn't feel anything. I was like, all right, this is awesome. Cool. Spencer Chamberlain. But if I were to talk to Spencer Chamberlain in person, I'd be like awkward, and I'd be probably like a little bit like sweaty, and probably fumbling all over my words and saying dumb shit instead of saying what I actually want to say. So there's this weird disconnect that we live with, and I'm not entirely sure what that is or why that exists, but it's there.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that it's become such the barrier of screen. It's like a bartender. I know people who tend bar that behind the bar they're a badass, but like the minute you step on the other side, they get real timid real quick. I think
Yeah,
the illusion of a barrier helps some people communicate better.
Mm.
yeah, it's like a stage, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
I
makes
mean,
sense.
I've met some band dudes over the years, and I've met comedians where you're like, "What's up, dude? That was awesome." Like, and you're like, "What? Okay, well,
Like, dude, you were just humping a microphone out there, and now you can't talk to me.
yeah." It's just like, because I've had some interesting run-ins with like musicians and people over the years, and you're just like, this is just bananas. Like everyone says Buzz Osborne's an asshole, and Buzz Osborne was so nice to us when we were kids. He was so nice. It was like 95 or 96 we'd met him. And like Nirvana was my favorite band.
Yeah.
And
Well, do people think that Buzz is an asshole because of the way, like his relationship with Kurt, or is it just because they say he's an
he's
asshole
just
just
said some
because?
stuff over the years that has been,
He's butthurt
I'm not,
about the fact that he's not famous as famous as Nirvana.
I don't think it's really that. I think that they found their niche and they like do what they do. And the Melvins just aren't a band that is like built to be big,
Right. No, I
like
totally
they've,
agree.
and so we saw them in like 96 with Helmet, and we were kids, and like we were all like, I'm in a Nirvana t-shirt, and then like Kurt had probably been dead a year and a half, and he was really kind, and he was telling us like stories about them and stuff, and like when we were asked, like he could tell we were just interested kids at this show, and like he was just really nice to us. And Dale Crover gave me like one of his like drumming. He wears garden gloves to drum in, and I still have it to this day somewhere.
That is
And
the weirdest thing, by the way.
they have grip on them, so it makes
Yeah, no, I
sense.
get it. It's just goofy.
Yeah, they were really nice. And then I've met other people, and you're like, wow, you're a total jagoff.
Say one.
Carl from Earth Crisis was an asshole when I met him.
God damn it.
It was like 98, 99, and I was like, they played the Fireside Bowl. And if he ever hears this, he's like, fuck, man, what the fuck, dude? I like just got them playing. You're asking me dumb shit. And so like I straight up was like, so I was working. I was like just like getting into the writer thing, and like I was trying to do this piece. Like I wrote a piece because they had just toured with VOD, and it was like Earth Crisis, Vision of Disorder, and Vision of Disorder was like this hard partying band that
Mhm.
like openly drank and did drugs and shit. And I was like, so how does it work being friends with them? Because you guys are like militant straight edge, and these guys go absolutely bananas. And like I wrote a paper on this. So like I think I wrote it for a zine or something. And he was like, I fucking love it. He's like, it's so cool. He's like, I love watching him get fucked up. He's like, it's really, really awesome. I was like, cool. I'm like,
Neat.
you didn't. I was like, awesome, dude. So 6 months, you know, I just wanted to be like, yeah, dude, and Slither sucks too. That album blows. I wanted to say that. 42-year-old me would definitely say that now.
Next time. I think it's time for top 5 most influential. What do you think?
Let's do it.
So are we? Is it hardcore records or just records in general?
Anything.
Any album.
If you want to say Enya, Orinoco, Flow, be our guest.
Let me think. If we're gonna go top 5, like most influential records, I'm gonna have to say one of them was Be Nirvana's In Utero.
I mean,
You,
that is such a fucking incredible album. It's by far my favorite Nirvana album.
oh,
What
easily.
what is about In Utero that does it for you?
I was 14 when Kurt died, and they were no 13, and they were my favorite band. And like I was already listening to like punk and metal and like not hardcore yet, but like punk and metal and grunge. Like I was primed for all that, and like them. Like I'm from Chicago, Steve Albini, so like we'd always heard like Chicago guys recording it, and so that was always super cool. And you know, it's just gnarly. Even the way it opens with "Serve the Servants," it's just like you can hear the feedback and everything, and like radio friendly unit shifters. Just like there's just it has such a presence to it. Versus like I love Nevermind like everybody else, but in Utero, just like to me, that's like what Nirvana probably would have. I don't think Nirvana would have stayed the same, but I think that if you ever wanted like a true snapshot of the band at like their most poignant, it was that because
Yeah.
would have Dave stepped up and did other stuff? Who knows? Because Dave even said he knows. You know, they've all said they didn't know what the next iteration of the band would be. They talked about collaborating with Michael Stipe and doing different stuff. So
That would have been
who
interesting.
knows? But that I would probably put "Refuse," "The Shape of Punk" to come.
Oh yeah.
That's a
Um,
very common one on here. I can't believe how common it is.
yeah, I mean, like if you're of that age in '98 when that came out, dude, that shit was just like mind blowing because it was like these dudes with like beetle hair and like shirts and like as soon as I saw that, I just started wearing like long sleeve like started wearing button up shirts and like sweaters and stuff because the Refused looked so cool. They looked just cool, and then like they like that entire thing is like every band was ripping that band off for like 20 years. Like, I mean, fuck, look at the like
Still
one of
today.
those Blink 180. I mean, yeah, one of those Blink 182 records. They like lean into that shit hard, and I remember
Yeah.
hearing it and being like, "You guys definitely like Refused," and yeah, I mean that would be a big one. I'm trying to think of another like really big one. Probably Radiohead, Kid A. I'm trying to think.
I don't think he's a big Radiohead guy. What is it about Radiohead?
I love them. Like to be honest with you, dude, I listen to mostly like rock and roll, country, the blues, and like stuff like that, and punk. Like I still like hardcore, obviously, but like Radiohead, Portishead, Bjork. I love Massive Attack, Tricky. I love all that stuff.
Nice. I like it.
So yeah,
You
That's my
said
first
blues.
tattoo.
You said blues. Who's your guy or gal for blues?
Elmore James.
Elmore James. Oh man, he's great.
Elmore
There's
James, Little Walter, Howlin' Wolf.
Howlin' Wolf's my jam. Mason knows
Yeah,
that. I sing Howlin' Wolf at karaoke every once in a while just because I think it's fun as fuck.
nice.
Yeah, it's really fun to get really drunk to and try to do Smokestack Lightning or Evil or some shit like that. It's good stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it's so good. It's timelessly good. And like when
Yeah.
you're from Chicago, that's like so beat noir. Like,
Oh, did I even think about that?
I,
You gotta like Albert King then, big time, right? He's
oh
Chicago
yeah,
blues, right? Yeah, the big flying V, crosscut
yeah.
saw. Oh man,
We grew up on all that. That's my dad's shit. So like there was never like a discovery period. It was like that's just what I grew up hearing.
Yeah.
So,
I,
and
I I've
that's
always I don't mean to keep belaboring blues music, but I've always thought that it hasn't gotten a good enough rap in in modern music culture. That if you look back at what they were talking about in the time that they were talking about it, they were pushing every single fucking boundary possible all
Mhm.
the time with every record. Um, and it was just about every single blues artist was doing that. I just think that it needs more attention, in my
the
opinion.
thing about the blues is there are purists that get it right. Like there is a guy, Patrick Sweeney. He has a song called "Them Shoes." If you're a blues
Yeah,
guy, look up Patrick Sweeney. You
yeah,
know, Dan Auerbach from the Black Keys and Jack White. They're all stewards of the music. The
totally.
thing about it is we need more of them because the blues. I say it all the time. Guys like Charlie Musselwhite, Buddy Guy, they do not need to be recorded on. The blues loses something. Like it's like country music. Like it's certain kinds of country music. Like yeah, pop
Mhm.
country bullshit to whatever. But like music like country, like rock and roll, like that shit needs to be analog in a studio, mics in a room, no digital trickery bullshit.
No,
That's
all
why
one
the
take.
music,
Yeah,
it's just get in there and nail it on tape, do the best you can. And if there's mistakes, we'll probably be more endeared to those mistakes rather than
yeah,
slick recordings. Like that's the blues is not meant to sound clean and bright. It's meant to say like everybody kind of goes back to like those early Johnny Cash records and everything is like simple recording techniques. The Beatles, all those old Stones records, it's all
yeah.
just that's the magic of music where, you know, like you listen to some of those old hardcore records, like you listen to Set It Off by Madball, it's got a certain element of darkness to it versus if you listen to something Madball probably puts out next year, it just doesn't sound the same.
It's
And like the
too
bands,
clean. Yeah.
yeah, like you listen to like Hatebreed, Satisfactions, The Death of Desire, there's still
Oh
some like
fuck.
there's mistakes all over that record
Yeah.
and it's so good. But like, you know, you hear it now and it's like super polished, and it's like I don't know, man. You guys kind of lose something in the process.
But
So
people gotta understand that's what fans want, right? People gotta understand that we don't want super polished shit. Like
no,
give us the flaws. Like I don't know why every band seems to make this an issue.
I don't know. It's I think it's just because we have the tools to make it so polished now that people just like really polishing things up. I don't know. But I remember I just thought about record number 4, which is my favorite album of all time, which would
Sweet.
be Smashing Pumpkins' Siamese Dream.
Oh.
Nice. Yeah. Great. Great, great, great.
And
Have you listened to
then
their new stuff? What do you think about their new stuff?
I think it's good. It's just kind of like there's bands that the best way you can look at it is I would love to see Billy Corgan get in a studio like that with a guy like Steve Albini or Butch Vig and like go back to the roots to do stuff. And then I would take it much more to heart versus like, oh, hey, here's another Pumpkins record. Because I
Yeah.
just think that they kind of lost something. It's not bad. It's just he's working on a follow up or like a companion to Melancholy and the Infinite Sadness, where like I lost the plot by then with that band. Like I like
Yeah.
about half the songs on that record,
Yeah.
but I'm more Gish and Siamese Dream.
I
Those
like
two
Gish. I
records
like
are
Gish most. Yeah.
yeah, those are my records with them. And by the time like that record came out, I just had already like Zero's fine. That's a good song. Muzzle's a good one, but like that's not my record. I was already on the outdoor. By that came out, I was already listening to Snapcase.
Yeah, sure.
So,
Sure.
um, yeah, and I think what would be number 5? Because you got to always think of like there's a million bands I like that I'm like, oh, because I haven't said the Misfits, but the Misfits are like my other favorite band. But it's like, you know, that's a given with my life of like them and you know, I'd probably, you know, I probably it's either Weezer's The Blue Album, but probably like a Hank Williams collection because Hank Williams is my favorite singer
Ooh.
of all time.
Mm.
It's good stuff.
I love
Yeah.
country music, you know, and
Yeah.
I haven't even touched on Social Distortion or Lucero or any of those bands that I love too.
That's why the list of five is so difficult, right?
Yeah, I mean, for if you're a music person, like you're like, well, what's my favorite singer? What about 5? Like, I can give you 5 great jazz records, you know.
Yeah. Well, that's why we tried to narrow it down to the most influential, the albums that like mean the most to you. They might not be your favorite. Mine, I know my top 5 of most influential is very different than my favorite albums. You know, just depends on the person, you know.
Yeah, I mean, you like we haven't even done like then there's like De La Soul and Tribe Called Quest and all that stuff that I like too. And
Hmm.
there's just
Mhm.
a million things that like I hear the Fugees the score and I immediately think skateboarding in like '96. It's hitting like rails in the streets of Chicago. And you're like, those are those magical concoction that music does for us.
Definitely. Definitely. All right, Robert, what would you like to plug, man? You've got more than one book. Tell us about all of them. How about that? And where we can get them?
Um, you can buy everything at Barnes and Noble. You can get everything at Amazon, whatever bookseller you want to go to. The other two, it's fine. Buy them. It's called the Red Seven, and the other one is called In the Arms of Nightmares. They're both good. I mean, good to me because I wrote them. But they're kind of both in limbo
Okay.
because both of the publishing companies no longer exist, and like both of the people behind those publishing companies are dead. So
Oh
it's
shit.
kind of like, yeah, you can buy it. I'll never see a dime from them. But
What?
Did
Existential
they have
Thirst
like a
Trap,
ride with a Russian mafia one night when they were
no,
trying to
dude.
get with a girl or what?
Like one guy dropped dead of a heart attack, and then the other guy, and he was like super healthy and was running marathons and stuff. And then the other publisher, the dude had a million health problems, like a million, like just was like he was health challenged to begin with, beat COVID, beat like all these like maladies, and then a fucking drunk bitch hits him and kills him.
Oh my god,
And
that's the worst. So,
rest in peace, Dave.
real quick, what happens with a publisher's I don't know what you call it, their assets once someone dies? Like,
Uh,
does like another publisher like buy their assets if they want them, or?
they could. I've just been like, I had In the Arms of Nightmares remitted back to me years ago. I just haven't done anything with it. I've thought about taking it off Amazon, just because I'm not really proud of the book. Like, I think the story's good, but how I got that publishing contract at like 28 years old and stuff like that, it's filled with errors and bullshit, and it goes on too long. And I think it could be better. Um, but Red Seven, I just haven't talked to anybody from Dave's estate because it came out through Necro Books, and Necro Books was around for like 25 years,
Yeah.
and they were like they did very well in like horror and crime and underground, like genre fiction. And so I should probably do my due diligence on that, but I just haven't. Um, but Existential Thirst Trap, that one is cool. I've got one called the 24/7 Nighthawk that comes out I think February 2025, and then I'm working on the um, the follow up to Existential Thirst Trap, which is going to be called Sad Clown. And then I
That's all
just
about
had
your
a
jug. That's all about your journey becoming a juggalo, right?
absolutely. It's
Sweet man.
the first story is going to be called Whoop Whoop.
Whoop, whoop.
The final will be called I Fell in Love with a Jug of Hoe. It'll be dedicated to Fago. There will probably be multiple, you know, F words and lots of, you know, talking about the Nedden game. And maybe I might, I might just fucking go for broke and just dedicate it to the great Malenko himself. I don't know.
And every book comes with a free cleaver, right?
Yeah, absolutely. With real
Yeah.
blood on it.
Is it your blood?
No, it's from somebody I
Some
killed. Let's go, or chickens, because we're going chicken hunting. I can do this all day.
Robert, what else would you like to plug?
I have a new piece that just came out from Channel Void, a magazine in Sydney. It's online. It's called The Economics of Sin. If you want to see the newest thing I wrote, where this goes back to when you were talking about like the mob stuff. I interviewed two drug dealers. I interviewed a prostitute and a stripper, and kind of like was like how this economy is garbage. So how's it treating you? Like, are you making the money that you were? And people aren't doing really great. So if you want a really dark story about like the links people had to go, like nobody in America would put this out. So like a company, someone in Australia had the guts to like do it because like it's gnarly. These people tell their stories and they tell it with no band-aid on there. about
Wow.
like what they've gone through. So it's super gnarly. It's called The Economics of Sin.
I like that.
Damn.
That's actually something I'm super interested in.
Yeah, it's on Channel Void. I'll send you guys the link to it. I'm really proud of that piece because it's, I interviewed these people and they were like, "Yo, you got to do what you got to do." One dude was just straight up. He's like, "Look, I carry a strap on me." He's like, "It's me or you. I got to feed my kids," and you just kind of have to view it like that. When I talked to the prostitute, she was completely honest about where her life is, and it's heartbreaking, man. It's really hard out there. A lot of people, myself including, are just struggling right now.
Yeah. Wow, dude. That's a
Uh,
that's some good work. That's some good
No,
work.
thank you.
I got to
Oh,
check
yeah.
that out.
Yeah, very, very necessary. Well, Robert, thank you so much for chatting about Existential Thirst Trap, chatting about your story. You're such a cool dude. We definitely need to get you back on. We can maybe do like a fantasy draft episode or something. But yeah, just thanks for hanging out and chatting more about the book.
Yeah,
Yeah,
man.
no, I'm super psyched. I listen to the podcast all the time when there's like a band I like, and I'll be sitting in the car just cruising and be like, fucking like somebody will get something wrong or like something will
We
pop
get a
up.
lot of shit wrong. That's one thing we definitely
But it's
need to
not
get
you
clear.
guys. It's like people in bands that I like, and I'm like, that didn't happen like that. That's some bullshit. Fuck that. And I'll be screaming in the car, like just like an asshole. Like one time, I think I was drunk, and like something came up, and I can't remember who it was. They said something. I think I messaged you guys, and I was just yelling at the radio. I was like,
You
that's
know,
bullshit. That's
my goal has always been to be a piece of media that someone screams into the void about. Like my dad screamed at the Vikings growing up.
yeah,
It's a dream of mine, and we're getting there.
yeah. I
Fucking
definitely am
idiot.
guilty of yelling some. Like I can't remember what it was, man. But I was just like yelling, and I'll listen to it. And I was like, "You fucking dummy!" Like that's just
I'll be
straight
honest.
up.
We've had some dummies on. That does happen. So
I was
Well, you
shout
get
out. I
two
was
of them
real
every
proud.
time that this
yeah, you get
podcast
two
happens.
every single episode.
Now I was super proud that you guys hit up Slow Pulse, man. I'm real proud of them.
Yeah,
They're
you bet.
awesome.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're great. They're doing really good things. There's another band here called Beyond Reach. That's another great band that they play with a lot. And then Designs is another really good hardcore band in Austin. And Daniel, who sings and designs his old band, Thumbscrew, is getting back together on the 10th to play a show, which is going to be awesome. If you
Sick.
like super chaotic mid 2000s hardcore, Thumbscrew is awesome. They
That's
were
our
way
jam.
ahead of the curve on like a lot of shit. They're playing a reunion show on the 10th, and I'm stoked because they came up to Chicago and I was in a hardcore band and we would play together. And so I've known those dudes for over 20 years. And so to see everybody again is going to be fucking surreal.
Yeah, dude. Fuck yeah. Killer.
Love
Also,
it.
that's a great band name, Thumbscrew.
Yeah, they were great.
Sounds monotonous, but also like hardcore at the same time. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Very
another
hardcore.
good band. Which I'm just going to start rattling off all the bands now. But like another good one is Rickshaw Billy's Burger Patrol. They're they're great. They sound like if Primus listened to hardcore because Leo, the singer, guitar player, he's from Boston, and so like he's like Converge, Coalesce, like not co- like Converge, Coalesce, like a lot of that East Coast stuff is like very in his riffs, and you can hear the cave in and stuff to it. But they're
Sick.
like, yeah, they have they're Rickshaw Billy's Burger Patrol, but they're like I said, and take Primus and hardcore and put it together. They're great.
All right. Last thing that we need you to send us off with. All right. One band that you think deserves to be huge, but is not, and you want to get their name out there. What band is it? Take a moment to think if you need to.
Do I think does this have to be a hardcore band?
No, it could be any band you want. A band that you think is just immensely talented and deserves more recognition. What band is that?
I've always been so I say this with the preface that the lyrics to this band are very, very personal. They're fucking great. They're a great band full of good dudes. They're big enough, but I think they should be way bigger than they are, and that would be Lucero.
Lucero. All right. Sick. There you go. You heard it there. Robert Dean, thank you so much. Go check out his book, everyone. Thanks again for coming on the Black Sheep podcast.
Thanks, dude. I was super stoked on this. I was seriously super stoked.